And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Thursday morning's flying weather graphic shows some IFR here, moving slowly eastward, starting out IFR along the Alaska Range down into the western Copper River Basin areas through the Talkeetnas, Matanuska Valley possibly, and along the North Gulf Coast, extending up to a bigger area of IFR from the Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast. Marginal VFR along the southwest coast. VFR here for the start to the day, Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay, also over the north central and northwest interior. And then the next band of IFR, that system out to the west, pushing eastward into the western Aleutians. Good IFR across all the southeast coast. And for the afternoon, Panhandle stays in an IFR pattern there, while conditions slowly improve here as higher pressure shifts eastward, kind of a drier northerly flow coming in. So becoming VFR, Susitna Valley, Cook Inlet, and possibly even the Matanuska Valley as well in the afternoon, down to Kodiak Island, Bristol Bay staying VFR. Kuskokwim Valley, mostly VFR by the afternoon hours, later in the afternoon, and good VFR here over the west central interior. Brooks Range out to the Arctic coast, marginal VFR, Bering Strait, Seward Peninsula, marginal VFR as you can see, down to the Pribilofs, Alaska Peninsula marginal, and then that next batch of IFR exiting the central Aleutians and moving into Nikulski. And then for Friday morning, that area really weakens. There's still some IFR though pushing into the western Alaska Peninsula. Eastern Bering Sea, marginal VFR, again inland here over the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta, actually into the lower Yukon River Valley, Norton Sound, Seward Peninsula, all marginal. Good improvement out here over the western Bering Sea. VFR, Adak, Atka out to Shimian Attu. VFR here over the central interior for Friday morning. Maybe some marginal VFR along portions of the Alaska Range. Some IFR here over toward the eastern interior and along the north slope there. And still IFR mostly for the southeast coast, but the North Gulf Coast here, Yakutat into Prince William Sound, VFR for Friday morning. And in the afternoon, good VFR in the central interior, down to Kodiak Island again, northeast Bristol Bay, a little more marginal VFR here coming into about Dillingham over to Cape Newenham, and eastern Bering Sea, Yukon, especially the Yukon Delta, to a lesser extent the Kuskokwim Delta, marginal VFR. Marginal for the North Slope and the Arctic coast. Not much in the way of any IFR out over the Bering Sea, as well as the Gulf of Alaska, looking really good in the North Gulf Coast. VFR. Lingering marginal VFR, mountainous terrain at the Copper River Basin, eastern Aleutians. Improving here over the Panhandle with VFR showing up in the southern areas. And out to the west, just areas of marginal VFR. Passes, Anatuvik and Adigan, both marginal VFR for the day on Thursday. Lake Clark and Merrill improving throughout the day. Lowest conditions early on, better in the afternoon. And for rainy, same trend, IFR becoming VFR at some point in the latter part of the afternoon tomorrow. Windy, IFR to marginal VFR. Same forecast for Isabel, IFR to marginal VFR. And for Mentasta, marginal to VFR conditions. All these passes on the improving side. Tanita, same thing, becoming VFR tomorrow afternoon. Portage, becoming VFR. The only exception is Chilkoot and White. They'll stay IFR the entire day. And for the freezing levels, across the southeast coast here, just east of Yakutat, 6,000 feet, and up to 12,000 feet, their southern Dixon entrance. Otherwise, cool air aloft here coming in, 2,000 to 4,000 feet there from the Kuskokwim Bay area down to Kodiak Island. And kind of a spaghetti pattern here over the Bering Sea with the warmest conditions over the western Aleutians. Icing coming eastward here, considerable moderate rime icing and a pretty good band. St. Matthew Island coming into the eastern Aleutians, Alaska Peninsula, dry to the east of that, and then some areas of possible mixed icing, very isolated in the moderate category there down to the North Gulf Coast, and then maybe some more considerable type icing there for the North Slope and the eastern Brooks Range area. All of that slowly shifting eastward, and considerable moderate rime icing possible for the central and southern Panhandle. And jet stream showing south to north flow, or south to north-northeast flow here, up to 135 knots off the north coast of the Panhandle there, just near Yakutat. And this trough here moving slowly eastward, allowing this northerly flow pattern to come inland there, 70 to 80 knots, up to 90 knots over the western Arctic coast, and 105 knots here blowing across the Aleutian Range, and then good westerlies mostly along and south of the Aleutians. 9,000 feet, much lighter wind pattern here over the interior with high pressure over the northern Bering Sea. Westerlies at about 60 knots there coming into the western Aleutians, and again, pretty light over the interior areas, but at 9,000 feet, 60 to 75 knots south-southwesterlies blowing right across the southeast coast, and about 50 knots over the central and southern panhandle, lighter to the north, light and variable over the southern and eastern or central interior here. Northerlies about 20 to 30 knots here, northeast Bristol Bay coming across Sitkinak Island, and westerlies 20 to 30 knots with that low up off the eastern Arctic coast. Otherwise about 40 to 45 knots over the central western Bering Sea. Turbulence-wise, moderate turbulence here for the eastern Aleutians, Shimmy and Attu, Pribilof, St. Matthew Island ahead of that front, and mechanical moderate turbulence here, southern Kodiak Island, and also moderate turbulence for the southern southeast coastal areas.